Well, for more on this, let's bring in investigative journalist Tony Gosling, who's been closely following the crisis in Ukraine. Tony, were you surprised by this BBC investigation offering another look at last year's deadly events in Kiev?
Well, no, I wasn't, but it's interesting to see that this is it's actually TV people who are doing this investigation. There seems to be no official, proper investigation on the ground as to what really happened. But the key thing, of course, is who benefited for the power vacuum that was created when I think it was something like 70 police and civilians were both killed. One thing I'd point out at the time, BBC 5 Live reported a chap called Marco Boyson on 5 Live that the British rifles had been used. That was back last February. I haven't heard that mentioned again. The only problem I have with the BBC report is that they presented as an expert Andriy Parubiy, who of course is the founder of the far-right Svoboda party in Ukraine. Now, he has been lobbying for the EU to accept as a hero Stepan Bandera, the Nazi leader in Ukraine during the war. So, I mean, I think the idea of presenting him as an expert who has no, background or baggage is crazy, really, because the guy's actually pro-Nazi, and we need to have that. I mean, when they were filming him, maybe they had to avoid pictures of Stepan Bandera on the wall. So, I mean, that kind of thing is what bothers me, is when someone like that is presented as an expert in the situation.
What do you make of the timing? Because it's been almost a year since the Maidan shootings. Why has it taken so long for the untold story, as it were, to come out?
Well, it's only trickling out now. We're still not entirely sure what happened. And of course, this is very common with the conflict in Ukraine, also with the MH17 airliner, the Malaysian airliner that went down too. No proper investigation, and it's really being left to us as journalists to get to the bottom of this. I think we really do need to know, and the people who gained from that power vacuum, I would say the finger is most probably going to eventually point at them. That's the new regime that took over at the time. I mean, it's not being talked about enough as a coup, but quite clearly it was. When that power vacuum was created and people were removed from the government, a new government came in. That, to me, in my language, is a coup.
Just looking at the picture overall now, the New Economist magazine cover features an image of Vladimir Putin looking fairly menacing, it must be said, with the title Putin's War on the West. Should we expect this kind of negative view among major media outlets to change now in the wake of the peace deal that we've seen in Minsk this morning?
Well, look, The Economist magazine is the voice of the City of London, not at all unbiased, and this sort of propaganda I don't think goes down too well here in Britain, actually. It may be counterproductive. The sorts of messages I'd like to see, things that I'd like to see further examined, are to what extent regular army in Ukraine has been firing at civilians and its civilian areas, using that sort of, artillery and regular army equipment. That's really dangerous. And I'd like to think that if there were fascists in control here in Westminster, in London, that parts of the country might fight back. I don't think that's a strange thing to happen. I think if there's far-right people in power in Kiev, there's bound to be some resistance. I'm very glad, though, what's happened in Minsk here, and I think we will see a continued ceasefire from Saturday, and some kind of cessation in these hostilities is very, very welcome. And I think maybe we'll see ultimately it could go either way. We could see the east of Ukraine actually become an independent country, kind of Novorossiya, which is what they want. And actually also there could be a return to government from Kiev. But whatever happens, we've got to stop the killing.
Okay, investigative journalist Tony Gosling, thanks for joining us this hour.